Let's spend some time together and make some cute gingerbread cookie plushies. It's almost Christmas time, so I decided to add some festive themes to my Bakery Friends pattern. I've been working on this pattern bundle since like May, and I finally got around to finishing it. It has 9 different patterns in one, and if you want a copy of the PDF to make all the different plushies, you can find it in my shop. Today I'm going to show you how to make this cute gingerbread plushie, so let's get started. I'm going to be using burlap blanket yarn because that's what I prefer, but you can use any type of yarn that you'd like. And just a note about the brown color called Sienna, it is a little hard to find because it's not sold in the 200 yard skeins. You have to buy it in like the bigger 400 yard one. But it is like the only color of brown or not, so I do use it for a lot of things like my dogs and other plushies, so you'll find a use for it if you do decide to get it. Here are some of the tools that I'm going to be using: a 6.5mm crochet hook, a yarn needle, scissors, a little stitch marker, and I use cotton worsted weight yarn to put the little details on the face like the smile. And then I'm going to be using 16mm kawaii eyes that I painted. I think they look so pretty, and I've been using green, but I want to kind of mix it up for this one, and I'm going to try to use a different color. And you also need polyfill and the pattern, but I'll share part of it with you today. So starting off, we're going to make the arms because this is a super low sew plushie, so we're going to do it in a kind of different way so that we don't have to sew anything on. So make a magic circle and then place 8 single crochets in that magic circle to start off the arms. Both arms are the same, so I'm just going to show you how to make one, and then you can like stop the video and make the other one. But basically we're going to crochet them on when we get to the neck, so we want to have them made first. So pull your magic circle tight and then completely ignore that starting chain of the magic circle and work into the first real single crochet, and for row 2 we're just going to single crochet around. It should be 8 single crochets. The only thing to be aware of is don't finish the last stitch because we're gonna finish it off with a new color, do a color change onto white. I'm using this sparkly white and I think it's like a really cute little touch. And again, once you finish this row, don't finish because we're switching back to that brown color, and we're just gonna single crochet for 2 rows around. And once you finish the first row, sometimes it's good to tie all of your ends and like tuck them towards the bottom of the arm because it's gonna get like thinner and hard to work with as we go up. And for the last row we're going to be doing something like a little weird, but I just found it helps to have 4 spaces to single crochet the arm onto. You don't want like 5 because then it's not even. So for the last row we're going to do an invisible decrease, which is pulling up the front loop only from the next 2 stitches and making a single crochet, turning 2 stitches into 1. And then we're going to make 6 single crochets to finish off the row before we just slip stitch, cut the yarn and fasten off, and you don't have to leave a long yarn because we're not going to be sewing it on. And I stuff them lightly and then just set them aside because we have to crochet the feet up now. So both feet are basically the same except for the last stitch. So I'm going to show you how to do both, and it's pretty similar to how we made the arms. You're going to make a magic circle but then put 10 single crochets into the magic circle because we want the feet to be a little bigger. If you're ever having trouble making a magic circle, you could always just chain 3 or 4 and then make a loop and work in that. There might be a little hole, but if it really bothers you, you can always go back at the end and like sew over it a few times to close it. And we're just going to single crochet around for 10 single crochets, but don't finish the last stitch because we're going to switch over to white. Single crochet around. Also, don't finish the last stitch on this row because we're gonna change back to brown the same way we did for the arms to make like little icing details on the gingerbread man. And there we go. And then we're gonna single crochet around again. But this is the part that's different for each foot. For the first foot, foot number 1, don't finish the last stitch. Kind of like you're gonna do a color change. And just cut the yarn, take your hook off carefully so you have those loops still there, and just set it aside. So then we can make foot 2 in the same way. Magic circle, 10 single crochet around, switch to white, single crochet around brown. And then for the last stitch of the last row, instead of not finishing it, we can finish it just like you normally would. And don't cut your yarn or anything because we're gonna go up the body now after we join them. So it's a super simple way to join them. It just looks weird on paper. Put the unfinished stitch back on your hook and then grab your finished loop and pull through to finish the stitch, just like a color change. And now your feet are joined and you don't have to worry about it. That was like the hardest part of the pattern. So now tie all of your ends, and you can even stuff the feet if you want to a little bit if you're using like a thinner yarn, because it might be hard to reach as we go along. For this next row, we're going to be doing a little bit of an increase just to kind of like get our numbers back on track, because the feet were kind of like a weird number. So you're going to do 9 normal single crochets, and then you're going to do an increase basically in the last stitch of each foot. And an increase is just 2 single crochets together made in the same stitch. And be careful you don't like flip the feet around too much. Like you see, you should just be working around evenly. And now you're going to do the first stitch of the second foot. And you're going to do the same thing over again. You're going to do 9 single crochets, and then in the last stitch you're going to do an increase, so 2 single crochets into the same stitch. And I definitely recommend using a stitch marker, because it can be easy to like get the sides mixed up or work around the same foot twice when it's like this. And I've done that before, and I've seen other people sent me like pictures before of one leg being like really long and the other one being short. So definitely use a stitch marker for the first round, at least around the feet. So now, easy part, just single crochet around for 2 rows. And like I said, if you're using a thinner yarn, or even like this Bernat, if you want to, just keep stuffing as you go after each row. We are going to decrease in a few rows, so now's a great time to get the plushie stuffed up to this point. And now on row 8, we're going to add a gumdrop bobble stitch. So just single crochet 10, but you might have to adjust it, like if you're using a different type of yarn or something. It doesn't really matter if you have to move it 1 stitch over either way. It won't affect the pattern. So when I make color changing bobble stitches, I do it in a specific way. I finish the last stitch and then yarn over with your new color, and kind of just, you have to awkwardly hold it behind your work, and then do your bobble stitch, which is 3 double crochets, each one not finished, all made in the same stitch. And then go back and grab the body color to pull through. And this way, the top part of the stitch that we're going to work in the next row will be the body color. So you won't get any like awkward color moving around the body that you don't want there. So I did the first one green, but you could do it any color you like. You could do it green or red or pink. It doesn't matter. You should be creative. And now we're just going to single crochet the rest of the way around. I do 11, but if you have to change it, that's fine. You just want to get back to your stitch marker. And I just cut the ends and tie it. And there we go, we got our first gumdrop. Looks pretty centered. Don't stress if you do have to move it. And now, easy part again, let's just single crochet around for 2 rows. I was making a ton of like hand painted eyes before I started to record this, and I spilled this like concentrated black pigment all over my hands. You could probably see it by now. And I've tried everything to get it off, like scrubbing, rubbing alcohol, everything. I think it's going to be there for a few days at least. So just ignore that. Anyway, so once you finish those 2 single crochet rows, we're going to add the next bobble stitch. But we kind of want to start decreasing now because we're getting towards the neck. So do 9 single crochets and then an invisible decrease. And then we're going to make the bobble stitch in the same way. And again, like, if you have to move things around, don't stress. It'll be fine. It's like a little plushie. You won't be able to tell. And just doing the same thing, awkwardly yarn over and hold it on the back. And then start your first double crochet, your second, and your third. Not finishing each one and making them all in the same stitch. And then pulling through with the body color so that that first stitch will be brown. And you kind of do have to be careful you don't miss the stitch right after the bobble, because sometimes it can be hard to see. But there we go, they look pretty straight. But again, it might be different for you. So we already did our first single crochet right after the bobble stitch, just to like close it. So we're going to do 8 more single crochets, and then our last stitch should be an invisible decrease. And I wanted to ask you guys if you'd be interested in me making a video showing how I paint my safety eyes, because I get questions about how to paint them a lot, and it's like hard to explain in words, but it'd be pretty easy to show you guys. But I just haven't made it yet because so far on my YouTube channel I've only done like crochet pattern tutorials, and making that video would take me like probably a week. And I just wasn't sure if I should like devote that much time and effort to it if not that many people were interested. But if you are interested, you can leave a comment and I'll see it. I think my next tutorial will be part of the sushi cap pattern. But if a lot of people are interested in the eyes, I can start working on it now and maybe like record a few times a week until I have enough for a video. Let me know and I'll get on it. Anyway, back to this pattern. Row 12 of the body is pretty simple. We're just going to do 3 single crochets and then an invisible decrease. And we're going to repeat that 4 times till we get back to our stitch marker. And I wanted to show just crocheting on top of the bobble because it should just be 1 stitch. And then the stitch next to it, because sometimes it can be weird to know where to put your stitches with a bobble. And see, because we color changed in that weird awkward way, we don't have any color migration, so it actually looks good. So the next row is where we're going to add on the arms, and we're just going to single crochet them on as we go. So you just insert your hook through both sides of the arm and then through your next stitch on the body, and that'll just attach them. And it should be 4 single crochets to attach the arm. And a tip I wanted to share with you guys is that because we're working in the round, there's like, you can tell where the color changes start and end. So I always try and place that like ugly part of the color change on the bottom of the arm and make sure it's not right on the top where you would notice it. And again, just like the bobble stitches, you're probably tired of hearing it, but I should mention it. You might have to adjust the arms. And because this row is just single crocheting around, it doesn't really matter. Just try and get them on either side of the plushie. When I do it, I do 3 single crochets, 4 single crochets to attach the arm, 4 single crochets around the front, 4 single crochets to attach the other arm, and then 1 single crochet at the end. And this way we won't have to sew anything on except for the little smile and the bow if you wanted to add one. As I kind of learned and evolved as a pattern writer, I try to make my pattern super low sew now, but it's made me a little spoiled. I don't want to sew anything on anymore. I'm designing like a little laying down red panda guy, and I don't want to sew anything. I made it all like one piece, even though it was probably harder to design it that way than just sewing like the head on and stuff, but whatever. Okay, so the next row is the neck, and we want to kind of increase a little because this is where the head starts. And we're also going to be making this row in the front loop only, just so it's a little more defined. So just go around and do 3 front loop only single crochets, and then an increase in the front loop only in the next stitch, and repeat that for 4 times total all the way around. And this plushie is little, so you don't have to worry too much about it, but I definitely always recommend stuffing the neck firmly, like just keep stuffing it after each row, because you don't want like a floppy neck or like a random empty spot in the plushie, you know, and it will be harder to stuff from here on out. So make sure the whole body is basically done by now. We're in the home stretch and the rest of the plushie is super easy. We're just going to do 4 single crochets and then an increase for 4 times total for this row. And that'll be the last increase before we single crochet up some rows and add the eyes, stuff it, and then close it. I'm kind of embarrassed by how I crochet on video, because when I'm filming these tutorials, I'm like watching myself through my phone to make sure I'm crocheting in the shot, but I mess up like so much. I promise I can actually find my stitches and crochet well. Average. Don't judge me by my tutorial. So once we do 4 rows around, we can add the eyes, and I like to add, these are 16mm eyes. I place them between rows 17 and 18, 4 stitches apart. You can adjust the size of the eyes if you want to, or space them differently, but something to be aware of is that we're going to be putting a smile right between them, so you kind of want to think about that when you're placing the eyes. I think they look good, and I tried like a gold color and I think it goes well. I was a little too nervous to try red because I don't want to make like an evil gingerbread man, but that might have actually been cool. Okay, so stuff the head, and then we're going to start decreasing, and we're almost done. do a row with 3 single crochets, invisible decrease 4 times, and then 2 single crochets, invisible decrease 4 times. And then normally we would do a 1 single crochet, invisible decrease row, but our stitch count is already like super low, so let's just go right into the invisible decreases around until the hole gets pretty small. And you should be stuffing it like after each row, because once you get to this point there's not much you can do unless you want to use like a chopstick to get it in there. So fasten off and leave a tail long enough to sew it shut, and I just go around through each front loop all the way around, and then you can kind of tug on it to pull it shut and it'll be like a magic circle. It goes away. I usually tie it 3 times just so I don't wake up in the middle of the night and wonder if it came undone. And then I thread it through and cut the end. Yay, we're basically done the plushie body. And now we can add a little smile. I always start from the top, and this is with that cotton worsted weight yarn. I thread it through, then around. And you can go over 1 stitch. Like in the background, that little bread, I did 1 stitch, and then this one I kind of did like 1.5 or 2. You can just experiment and find out what type of facial expression and smile that you like. And then you don't have to do this, you can do anything you like. This is what I like to do. I take a tiny bit of this Arlene's Fabric Fusion and I put a little bit on my yarn needle and just put like the tiniest bit on the back of the cotton thread, and then press it down with my thumb. But this glue is super permanent. Don't come after me if it gets somewhere and it never ever comes out. I warned you, okay? You don't have to do that. You could always like sew it down if you wanted to. Now that we finished his cute little smile, I'll show you how to make a little bow tie. You could put it on his neck as like a bow tie, or you could put it on the gingerbread cookie's head to make it more like a hair bow. So you just make a magic circle and then chain 2. You're going to make 1 double crochet into the magic circle and then chain 2 again, and then slip stitch into the magic circle. It's a little awkward, you have to like hold it, and then chain 2, a double crochet, and then chain 2 and slip stitch into the magic circle. And you want to leave a tail that's kind of long because you don't want to worry when you're sewing it on. And you can pull it tight, and then I use like the starting end, which is usually shorter. I loop around the middle a few times to make it look more like a bow, and then I tie that 3 times around the longer end. And then for this one I wanted to do something different, so I already made one with like a green bow tie, so I thought I'd try to make one with a white bow tie. Why not? And I just go around and sew it a few times. I even like loop around the middle a few more times just to make sure it's secure, and then I go on the back, tie it 3 times, and then I hide the end inside the plushie, and there you go. One more detail you can add that I feel like really makes it extra cute is adding a little blush. I just take a pink and I go in from the side, not where the blush is going to be, and I loop around a stitch near the eye a few times and then go back to where I started, cut the end, tie it, and hide it in the plushie. And there you go, you have a super cute gingerbread cookie. I didn't really want to call it like a gingerbread man or a gingerbread lady because you can make anything you want, like it's a cookie. Yeah, but I hope you liked this tutorial and you had fun crocheting with me. I want to take a second to thank all of my Patreons, all the members of the Crafty Cat Collective. We're a big group of really nice, friendly crochet artists who all support each other. And I always ask them if they want to test my patterns first and like share new things I'm working on there first. And it's really cool to have like a crochet friend group. So yeah, check it out if you want to join it. This whole pattern, the PDF of the 9-in-1, is the free pattern of the month for December. I give a free pattern away each month, so like it basically ends up being free. If you like my patterns, you get to be in the Crafty Cat Collective and you get a free pattern, so it works out. I hope everyone has a great day and I appreciate all of your kind words and support. Bye!